morning guys, how are you doing today? What I'm going to talk about is this concept of whether or not civilians, as in citizens who are not in the military or law enforcement, should be availing themselves of small unit tactics training, by which I mean, actual small unit tactics training and close quarter battle training, quality training of which we Max Velocity Tacticals specialize. And that's what we were created to do, which was to bring small unit tactics to civilians. And let me just be clear on this. We although that was our mission and that's what we continues to be our main focus, we do also offer training to military, and we've had various units train with us. And we don't, for example, we don't deny law enforcement training with us. It's just not something. This is not a political thing, and it's not what I'm talking about here. We have a number of law enforcement officers that actually come sort of individually and train with us, and so it's not an issue. This is not an anti-police thing, but there's some elements to it that are a little bit disturbing, and I want to kind of sort of cover that. So we offer, and we're created to offer, small unit tactics training, real small unit tactics training that is built on a progression, so a proper POI that therefore can safely take people from whatever level of knowledge they were at through to effectively learning these things. And we have, a number of alumni that sort of are proof on that. This is extremely important because this is what you need to do to build that whole warrior. So if you don't conduct the full sort of gamut of small unit tactics training from live fire, squad level work, force on force, squad level, close quarter battle, etc. If you don't progress to that, then you're not fully building the whole warrior. And as protectors, that's exactly what we need to be doing. And so therefore, conducting that kind of training is going to benefit you both in your tactical life and your ability in your professional life and your ability as a protector. So it's going to work on those aspects of fitness, tactical ability, shooting ability, leadership, teamwork, decision making under pressure, communication, etc. And it's excellent training in that sense, and therefore it's going to be building towards the whole warrior. And this is exactly what you need to be doing to invest in yourself. I also believe very strongly that as an individual American, with the 4th of July tomorrow, that you have a responsibility, and you have individual rights and responsibilities, and therefore this should not be denied to you by whatever means. Whether it's not even a legal sense that I'm talking about here, but it's more of a kind of a disapproval. And I want to talk about that a little bit. The sort of disapproval on this. Much in the same way that I've talked before about that kind of doomsday prepper character who decides that there's only one thing that's going to happen. It's going to be that sort of, rat virus or whatever that's going to come down, and that's what he's going to prepare for. And so he prepares for one thing. And in that preparation, he probably neglects a whole bunch of stuff that he really needed to be focusing on, and one of the primary ones is probably physical fitness, and therefore he's woefully unprepared. He has not built the whole warrior. He does not have the warrior mindset. In that same way, on the more tactical side, you'll get guys who can only see certain things that are going to happen. So they think it's going to be, it's going to be that classic gunfight, 3 yards, 3 rounds, it's done. That's it. That's all he needs to be prepared for. And he's going to prepare for that. And he can't see any other situation in which it may be more complex than that. And therefore, he's also woefully unprepared because he has situated himself in a feeling of what, based on, for example, current crime statistics, what might happen to him, and therefore that's what he's going to prepare for. So therefore he's not prepared for more serious threats should they arise, but he also doesn't realize that building the whole warrior mindset is actually going to help him with that threat that he's identified if it ever comes along. Situational awareness, threat avoidance, threat mitigation, all those things. It's going to help him a lot more than just simply practicing a fast draw handgun on the range at 3 yards, whatever he's doing. So, yes, I oversimplify. There's lots of nuances to this. I'm trying to sort of get my point across here. So these guys, both the Doomsday Prepper and the kind of the short-sighted tactical guy, are missing a lot of the point when it comes down to this. Now, as for companies that offer training, there's a lot of reasons why companies will only offer the training they do, and some companies will not allow training of civilians in various aspects of what they do. And they'll state things such as, well, if they're mainly, training law enforcement, then that's what they do. Or it may be that they don't really know, they're not really great instructors, and they don't have the facility for small unit tactics, and they're not motivated to provide that training. They might deny CQB training to people, for example, because they don't think that civilians are sort of up to it. They may just offer basic, what they call, basic marksmanship type training to civilians. There's also other companies that they just focus on that training. So they're just doing marksmanship training at a very basic level, handgun, rifle, that kind of thing. And they don't move on to that kind of small unit tactics, whole warrior training. Yes, they're missing the point, but that's not my business. It's not my business to tell companies what they should and should not offer and what they should and shouldn't do, just to say, well, I shouldn't tell individuals. I'll give people advice, like I say, you should build the whole warrior because it's investing in yourself, but I can't then mandate that people will do that, and I would never seek to. So it's not my business to tell companies who they should train. But it is very much a misnomer to say that citizens, as in citizens who are not in the military or not in the police, that cannot do this training. I have a lot of motivated alumni who can do this training. So if you've got motivated people, you can train them. And therefore, the liability issue, that kind of thing, that's why you have a good POI where you have it set up so that you can have a process to actually train people in a safe manner, in a safe and effective manner. And that's why we therefore have some prerequisites, etc. So we're set up to do that, and we're set up to do that training, and we do it effectively. So all of that is just an excuse. But that's fine, because if companies are just motivated to do whatever they want to do, then that's what they're going to do. There's also a strong aspect to this that what you see a lot of is this kind of just simple flat range training, and then you see close quarter battle training. And often that basically sums up the real sort of instructor level experience of a lot of these guys. They might have come out of some unit and that's what they know. And there's a whole different topic there about what small unit tactics skills have been lost due to perhaps focus on things, on particular things such as direct action in the sort of GWAT that we've been involved in since 9/11. So that's a whole different topic. But that might be all that these guys can really offer, and they might not be set up for this other stuff. However, what's more insidious and disturbing is the individual opinions of a lot of these guys who may, for example, come from a military or law enforcement background, who just feel that it's some great secret that they shouldn't teach civilians. And frankly, that's ridiculous, and it's un-American. And to say that, so if you were in the military or in law enforcement or both, and then you left, should you have your mind crypto deleted so you can't know these things anymore, and also that you shouldn't be able to practice them, which is ridiculous. And as for the knowledge is out there, open source on the internet, because that's the culture we live in, so it's out there. But that, for example, is why I have been training down in Texas for the last 4 years, and I'm coming up to go down there again in February again, because after a number of big name instructors have been down there over the years, they just didn't want to take guys through and beyond what the guys were asking for, which is to progress onto small unit tactics, pairs, fire team, this kind of stuff, because that's what they wanted to learn, because they wanted to build the warrior mindset, they wanted to build the whole warrior. And when you get guys that don't think that civilians can do that, then I find that very worrying. And of course, it may come from a personal belief that civilians don't need to know or shouldn't need to know this, but it also may come from a fact that they probably haven't got the facility to train it also, because they're just not experienced in that kind of thing. They don't have it, they don't have a POI built in for that kind of training. But to say that civilians shouldn't know this is terrible. 4th of July tomorrow, and it's an absolute duty of citizens to invest in themselves, to be better protectors, to build the warrior mindset. Now, there's also an argument I've seen that, most people can't or are not equipped to do this. I think that's very unfortunate, the state of sort of fitness, willpower, determination, the absolute lack of warrior mindset across the majority of society. But just because a whole bunch of people are fat and unmotivated doesn't mean, firstly, that they could not be motivated if they really needed to be, and secondly, that those, excellent souls who are actually motivated and who are building the warrior mindset should not be allowed to do so. So the argument of sort of the great fat majority should not be allowed to influence the minority. There's another thing here, and it's the M word, the militia. So I've had reports of guys, talking about going to max velocity tactical training and trying to bring a friend, and the friend's like, "Oh, I don't need to do that militia training." And this whole situation is crazy. So there's a lot to it. Don't want to talk for too long on it, but the whole militia thing, the word has been destroyed. It's that sort of mainstream media thing, and it's been obviously aided by those so-called militias, private groups, who have allowed themselves to be the subject of media attention and have been absolute crap because they have not built the warrior mindset. A lot of these sort of militias, so-called militias, tend to be more about politics and fear, rather than actually a group that builds the warrior mindset, which should not be politically motivated, except in the sense that it's sort of political culture. As in, we all know the culture war that's going on right now, sort of the strides of communism in this country. And so it should only be political in the sense that it's cultural, as in it's keeping individual rights and responsibilities alive, the American way, the American tradition, and building the warrior mindset as a protector. And that's what these groups should be about. But unfortunately, it's been destroyed. And therefore, it is a huge misnomer and it's a great tragedy that small unit tactics training has now somehow been equated with this very negative association with the word militia. So you'll get a lot of guys who wouldn't even consider doing anything other than the flat range because they don't want to be considered to be militia crazies. And that's a huge psyop. It's a massive psyop. But it's a successful psyop, so the whole militia thing should probably be just left alone. And what you should consider doing is training to build the whole warrior in groups of responsible armed citizens. And that's probably going to be the best thing for you. So that's a very negative association, which, I think those guys have helped, actually, maybe unwittingly, would have helped to bring about. There's another aspect to this which may or may not go hand in hand with that, and that is I watched a YouTube video, and I honestly do not remember who it was, but it was one of these guys. He put himself across as a SOF veteran, and he was talking about the secrets that they'd learnt in the GWAT. And then it was cutting between that and him doing some stuff on the flat range. And what he was doing on the flat range was basic ready up drills. And he was telling people that civilians just need to stick to those basics. So those basics are the secret. I mean, they're the same things that we teach as part of our progression at Max Velocity Tactical. But those things that he was doing were not only the secret, but the only basics that you needed to know. So basically, civilians, stay away from small unit tactics. Just do this stuff on the flat range and you'll be good, because that was the secret of the GWAT. And that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's so many ways that's ridiculous. I can't even go into it. But it's part of a psyop where, people are told that they don't really need to know that. But you absolutely do need to know that. And that's for whatever reason you're specifically doing it. You may be doing it because you are concerned, and anybody that watches the news should be concerned about what may or may not be coming down the pike in this country in the future. You may also be doing it partly because of that, but mainly because you're building the whole warrior, which is going to build that protector that's going to take care of that first case anyway if it ever arises. And building that whole warrior, that tactical skills, shooting skills, physical fitness, leadership, decision-making under stress, communication, is going to help you in your relationships and in your professional life. Now, it's going to invest in yourself, and that's exactly why it's important. It's going to make you a better protector, which is ultimately your duty. So this rash of sort of guys coming out of certain units or whatever and only teaching certain things, it's fine because people are going to do what they're going to do to make a buck. But if they're specifically saying, that you don't need to know that, or you shouldn't need to know that, then to me, that's a big issue. I also find it disingenuous because if you think about it, those same veterans have the benefit of being through this training, and yes, they may or may not have been to combat, and they have the benefit of that experience, but ultimately they have the benefit of this training, which is making them as individuals the better warrior and the better, if they keep it up, and a better protector. But they're saying that you don't need to know that, and you would only need to know that if you were, for example, in the military or in law enforcement. So, kind of in summary, this talk came about, it's something that's been bugging me for a long time. And then more recently, a company blocked me on Instagram because they were talking about CQB classes they've been running, and someone had come on, asked them if they offered those classes to civilians, and they were told no, but they only offer marksmanship classes. And I jumped on there and, I was like, why is that? And we actually offer them. And they got obviously annoyed and blocked my account. So, which is fine. Obviously I'm trying to get the word out there that if you do want that kind of fully legitimate training, then we do offer it. In the talk I recently did about, you are not a light infantryman, ? Where I talked about this thing I'd seen across the so-called liberty community about various trainers who align themselves with that, who were sort of saying that you don't need to know this stuff because you're not a light infantryman. I tried to explain that ultimately small unit tactics is light infantry tactics. It doesn't mean you're in a light infantry unit when you learn it. It's also unconventional warfare. It's all the same thing. It doesn't matter who's conducting it. Small unit tactics is light infantry tactics. It doesn't mean you're no longer a civilian. It doesn't mean you're no longer, a protector in your family. It doesn't mean you joined the military. I tried to explain this. I think it's quite simple. But then again, people are stupid, so it's kind of hard to get that across. I can't fix stupid, all right? There's only so much that I can do. And I'm trying to do a little bit by doing these Max talks. Now, so you've got, on the one hand, you've got liberty-loving Americans who want to build the whole warrior, who want to be more self-sufficient, who want to build the protector. And on the one hand, you've got a number of training companies or just sort of general, people out there on the internet who are telling people that they don't need to know that and they shouldn't know that. On the other hand, you've got people who are supposedly aligning themselves with the liberty community who are effectively telling people the same thing. That you don't need to know this training. That's extremely concerning. It's very concerning. It makes you wonder at what people's motivations are. If you're concerned about liberty, if you're concerned about being an American, individual rights and responsibilities, being responsible for your family, being that protector, building these skills, then you should do so. It's exactly why Max Velocity Tactical was created. It's exactly why we've got a progression of classes that will get you there. You've got to apply yourself. Some of the classes have got fitness prerequisites that are not hard. But it is worrying where the general sort of tactical training culture is disapproving of anything that really gets into small unit tactics. A lot of these instructors will sort of say they do, and they'll do a little bit, but it's not really effective when you look at the curriculums that they're doing. It's kind of it's almost like tourism. You just do a little bit of this patrol class and we'll walk around in the woods and do a little bit of stuff. It's not really getting you there. And so that is worrying. You shouldn't be asking permission. In this time of sort of what we've got, a pretty serious culture war going on, encroaching communism, socialism, absolute nightmare. You shouldn't be asking permission to go out there and invest in yourself and be a better protector and build the whole warrior. You shouldn't be sort of worried about these people who sort of tell you don't need to do it or shouldn't need to do it, or that they disapprove of it, or that your friend says to you, oh, that's crazy militia stuff, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Maybe you should show them some of these Max talks. It's all part of the sort of the culture and the psyop that is weakening people, and it's weakening you. So be proud in what you do. Be proud in how you invest in yourself. Throw off these naysayers, and go train. Absolutely go train. You need to build the whole warrior. Thank you very much, and happy 4th of July tomorrow.